So, Fractions Bump It is a super fun game that I've played in my own fourth grade classroom. Essentially, this game works on adding and subtracting fractions. There are versions out there on Teachers Pay Teachers that work on fractions of the same denominator and different denominators, as well as even multiplication and division of fractions, depending on the version you want to get. And you can even get this game to be used for grades 3 all the way through 6, as it does, as I said earlier, work on so many different aspects of fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplication, division, as well as same denominators and different denominators. This is definitely a two-player game using placeholders such as checkers or erasers or even coins, and two dice, as well as the playing mats. One player at a time, you'll roll the dice to get a number. That number will correspond with one of the numbers at the top that gives you an equation to solve. The player who rolled the dice will need to solve that equation correctly and find the solution in one of the circles at the bottom. They'll place their placeholder on the solution and then give the dice to the next player. Players are going to do this each round, back and forth, placing their placeholders on the solutions as they solve them. If a player gets a solution that their opponent already put one of their markers or placeholders on, they get to bump the opponent's placeholder off the circle and replace their own there. If a player gets a solution that they themselves have already put their own placeholder on, they get to put a second placeholder on top of the first one, and it's officially locked in, so their opponent can no longer bump their placeholders there. Players are going to do this until all the circles are locked in, not just covered with one, but fully locked in, and the player with the most circles locked in wins. And I did not purchase them on Teachers Pay Teachers. I personally made them myself. This is my version right here, the Bump Game 1, which works with the same denominators. These are the different equations. As you can see, you'd roll a 9. This is the equation you'd solve. And these are the circles on the bottom that I was talking about that you would put your placeholders on. And you could use things like coins, erasers, anything to simply just place it on. This is the other version that I have as well. It's the Fractions Bump Game 2. I did both adding, and as you can see, these ones handle different denominators and have some trickier solutions. So, essentially, players are going to do this until all their circles are locked in, as I summarized, and most circles locked in on a player wins. So let's take a look at how Fractions Bump It does when we apply my Math Games rubric to it. For the first criteria, which is math focus, this game earns a solid 4. The entire game revolves around math concepts such as addition, subtraction, and fractions, and not the versions I have, but versions you can make yourself or pay for on Teachers Pay Teachers. Focuses on multiplication and division and turning fractions into fractions of the same denominator, depending on which one you buy. The rules, point system, and gameplay fully rely on math skills and concepts, which is really nice. For the second criteria, engaging play, Fractions Bump It receives a 4. When I played this game with my small group during math, each player was having a really good time with each other. They were laughing and having fun the whole time and never got sidetracked from the game. They were loving the aspect of bumping their opponent from the circle and competing with each other there. And they even complained when I said that we had to finish up early because they weren't done yet, which bodes very well for student engagement, and I doubt you would have different results in your own classroom. For student choice, the third criteria on my rubric, this game does receive a 2, unfortunately. There really aren't any choices made by students in this game, with no options for how to strategize or win. There is just one aspect involving student autonomy. When a player rolls a 12, they get to come up with their own number sentence that results in a solution that matches a solution they want to put their own placeholder on the bottom. Since this is the only choice students are able to make throughout the game, Fractions Bump It does receive a 2, even though the choice of making your own number sentence to create the fraction you want is very helpful in math concept understanding. For the fourth criteria, easy to learn, this game receives a beautiful 4. When I played this game in my small groups, I gave one simple verbal explanation of the game's rules, and my kiddos understood how to play it instantly. I had no confusion over the rules, how to play, or how to win, and students got right into playing as soon as I was done with just the quick overview. This is a very easy game to introduce to your students, and I can guarantee that, as my kiddos are not the easiest to focus on instructions, and they easily were able to understand this after a quick overview. And finally, for classroom use, I gave this game a 3. Fractions Bump It is mostly easy to use in the classroom. It just requires more prep and organization from the teacher. There's a lot of moving parts, what with the dice and placeholders and making sure these objects stay organized with the game cards. Furthermore, I've not found personally a free downloadable version of this game for teachers to print out copies of, so teachers will either have to pay to have this game in their classroom on Teachers Pay Teachers or create a game card themselves the way I did and just print out copies of the original. Once prepped and organized, though, this game is very easy to introduce into your classroom, which does result in that higher 3 on classroom management scale. In conclusion, for this game, I love it. It was a really big hit to guide my students through any fraction problems, and I truly got to have those authentic experiences where I'm not just yapping at them and teaching them how to do order of operations with fractions, how to change them into different and same denominators. I got to authentically have them be like, hey, I'm stuck on this problem in the game, not sure where to go with it. And I just whipped out my whiteboard and gave them an explanation. And that made them much more engaged than simply having them sit at my desk, talk at them, go over set equations. They truly got to come to me and ask for help and really paid attention because their understanding of this equation helped them in the game, which they really wanted to win. And they got to collaborate with each other to find solutions and have fun competing with their classmates. So I will absolutely be reintroducing this game into my classes, and I highly recommend other teachers do as well, especially in that fourth grade period where fractions are just such a big deal. But this can be made for higher grade levels depending on which versions you buy or create.